Ready, Erika? Okay. Good evening. Good evening. The time is 5:33. Let me call to order the special work session for Monday, December 14th, 2020. For the record, all council members except Mr. Freeman are present. Council, one item on the agenda, that is discuss and consider the parks master plan and receive feedback from the town council. Good evening.
Thanks for having me. My name is Hunter Rush with MHS Planning and Design. We're here this evening. I'm here with Emily Gunderson, one of our planners. And we're here tonight to briefly just get a little bit of feedback from you regarding the Parks Master Plan. We've talked with 4B board, and we've also sent out a citizen survey this time. We have a little bit of that info we want to share with you tonight. But the first thing I want to do, could you put the presentation up? Can you have a moment, please? Thank you. And you can just go to the second slide there. Okay. Yeah, you can go to slide 2. Thank you. Just real briefly, I want to tell you about who we are. We're a planning and design firm out of Tyler. I tell you this, we've been in business for about 27 years, and we're a concept to completion firm. So we do from the very beginning planning. We assist in funding park projects for communities. We do land planning, landscape architecture, civil engineering, and even oversee construction of projects. And I tell you that because the importance in this scenario is that as we come in and do planning for your community, we want to make sure that you can get through the entire process. We don't want to leave you with a plan that has not been well thought through, that you can't fund it, you can't design it, or you can't build it. Because a book sitting by itself is not going to do you any good. Next slide, please. So just real quick, we've worked all over the state of Texas, primarily the DFW area and East Texas, and some down in the Houston and Austin area. Next slide. And just the approach that we take, we do project management and planning context, which is we have a meeting set in the next, 1st of January to sit down with Burton and JD and talk through the process and make sure we get the foundation of the plan set. We'll run through existing programs and the facilities analysis. We'll continue to get public input. Again, we've sent out the survey. We've got a few more meetings set, some more later this week. And based on information, we'll develop a needs analysis for what the community desires, set visions and goals and objectives based on those needs, and then put together the drafts, the planning, the recommendations that we think the town should pursue in the next 10 years. So with that being said, tonight, one of the things we want to discuss, and I want to share some of the public input we've heard so far, but I did want to briefly ask you all a few questions as we start this process. And one of the most important questions I think we can ask is, what are your expectations of this Parks Master Plan? As we move into this process and we gather information, as the town council and a group that is going to be mostly responsible for helping fund and approve these things, we want to make sure that we can achieve your expectations to this planning process. So is there any feedback on that, what your expectations may be at this time?
Go ahead, Mark.
From somebody who's been here a long time, I understand and realize the importance of having these quality of life opportunities brought to the town for people to enjoy the town with. At the same time, I don't want us to forget what got us here. And that's a difficult one. It's a very difficult one. But I don't want to walk away from those who built the town to make it attractive. And I know people in council are getting tired of hearing me say this, but we built this town. I've been here a long time. We built this town, not just myself, but people before me as well, that made it attractive enough for many of the citizens to come out here. But if you go changing significantly to make it look more like next door town, what do you end up with? And I think it's just real, to me, that's an important point to keep in mind.
And can I question, follow up on that? With that being said, you know, in your opinion, is quantity or quality more important?
Quality. And when I say quality, it's the aura of the town, for lack of a better word, or perspective of the town, at least in the 40 some odd years I've been here, is it doesn't matter if we have a few. We really don't want a lot. But whatever we do have, we want it to exceed and build a better product overall. That would be in housing construction, which we've been working toward getting better. That would be in the housing location. That would be in utilization of the land in a way that doesn't give you rubber stamp appearing neighborhoods and or rubber stamp appearing parks.
Thank you.
Yeah, respect Mark said, quality is important, but one other thing I try to keep in mind, our makeup has changed a lot. It's continued to change, right? Used to be different generation, and some generation moved out, and the younger generation comes up, and they have different expectations as far as not to dramatically change the town into a next door city, and I agree with Mark on it. Quantity also matters, right? Not everywhere is a park, right? Because if there are 1, 2 parks, that's all we have. It's already crowded. And as you know, we can't stop people from going even outside citizens. So I guess for me, it's a balance between quantity and quality. You need definitely quality, no doubt. But I also need enough to support the town. And I'd say, not trying to be wishy-washy, but that both have to be balanced in my mind. But I agree with Mark, though, on the quality.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I have a little different view of the higher level. I look at this as a strategic roadmap based on all the information you collect from what we tell you and what the citizens tell you. So I see this as kind of a strategic roadmap for us as we go through making funding decisions and things like that, that you've taken all that information, analyzed it, and then give us kind of a roadmap of that information. So I look at it from a much higher level, because that's what we need really to make long-term decisions for the town, is the strategic roadmap, so we can see kind of where we're going longer term for the town. So hopefully that'll be part of the plan.
Okay, certainly. Thank you.
Additional comments from the council? Is that it?
I'm sorry, I just moved my mic up. I agree with Ryan. I think I had it worded a little bit differently, but the same thing is represent the data that you get, the needs of our town, the growth of our town, the expectations of our town. I'd like to see what their responses are, so that'll help guide us in the process.
Okay, thank you. And I will mention, I've got a list of questions, but I'm very conversational. So if there's any point that you want to interrupt me or add more, please do, because a lot of the questions are kind of leaders if we get to a stalling point in our conversation.
Is that the same set of questions you asked the other stakeholders?
Yes,
when you met
it
with the
is.
Teresa and Forby
Correct.
and
It will
everybody?
be the same question. Okay. There'll be some additional questions based on the group specifically. You know, when we meet with sports organizations, we'll have more sports related questions, but for you and for me, it's been a lot of the same questions.
Thanks.
Could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. I think what makes Sunnyvale unique and a great place to live? And again, if there's any, hey, we're just going to skip to the next one. Feel free, because there's about maybe 6 or 7 more questions. So the other option, I could run through them and you can tell me if you want to answer any of them specifically.
I'm okay with that. What do you think? Instead of stopping, you all agree with that? Instead of stopping every point, unless When you see it, if you want to speak up, raise your hand. We can just talk through it, right? Otherwise, it can be here for a long time.
Yeah, I will say too that I would, as much feedback as possible, because it really will help us as we move forward. And again, we'll be throughout the planning process, we'll be coming back to you and asking that you keep, giving us input towards this plan to make sure when it's time to adopt it, that everyone's in support of it.
Susan, do you agree with that approach? Okay, thanks.
All right, next slide, please. What is your vision for the future of Sunnyvale over the next 10 years and beyond? What are the strengths of the current parks and trails system? What are the areas in need of improvement within the existing parks and trail system? How does youth athletics fit into the future of the park system in Sunnyvale? And then this is when we start getting into the survey data that we've already collected. So if there's any feedback on any of those questions, I'd be happy to hear any of them.
Mark, you have any comments? Eldridge?
I'm thinking. I got a few. So I think the town of Sunnyvale makes it unique is community. We're small, right? We have a lot of open space, but yet we're pretty connected between our little groups and between our school and our town and other, various groups inside of it. We all know each other, right? It's kind of benefit being a small town. That's why people come here. Right? We have great schools. We have great, diverse set of people. We all love this town, and people have a very sensitive community. That being said, one of the things I think is lacking among our trail system is interconnectivity. People are very connected, but I don't think we're physically very connected, right? It's all dispersed developments that never really fully connected by trails, parks, anything else, right? So really, it's kind of whack-a-mole, right? We tell them you got to put a walking path in, so they do that, but it doesn't connect anything else, right? It's the land of nowhere, right? The path of nowhere. So I'd like to see, some kind of way we can connect these things together, right? So that way our kids can get from neighborhood to neighborhood safely, get to the school safely, right? And get to sporting events safely. That'd be kind of my take on your questions.
Excellent, thank you.
Kevin, do you have any comments?
Right now, I agree with Mark. A lot of times there's been a master plan that we did 12, 15 years ago, whatever the date is on that. And, lots changed since then, but, there's a requirement on these developments to put trails in. A lot of times it's whether it's looking at the old plan without taking into effect or taking into consideration a lot of the changes that have happened. So I think a holistic plan would be great, updated holistic plan with taking into consideration some of the changes that have taken place. I think you brought up, more kids in your second to last slide just now, like sports activities for kids or whatever it is. So there's definitely some things that have changed that we may need to bring into consideration as we make this plan. But I'm glad we're doing this. I think having a holistic approach to it, taking a look at what we want and need, with consideration of the past, of other things that have been going on, with consideration of what makes Sunnyvale, more of a country atmosphere, country type of, rural feel. Keeping that in mind, I think, parks kind of encourage that because it's more space, it's less buildings, less development. So overall, I think a lot of these are great questions, and I think we can sit here and talk for a long time on it, and start to split hairs with it. But I'll say I do like where you're going with this, and interested to see a lot of the feedback that you're starting to get going on. So this master plan is going to be very helpful for us as we move to the next 5, 10, 20 years. So we start to set the goal and where do we aim to ship. So I think that's it. So not really, I don't have much to say.
Mark, additional comments, Stephen? Larry, additional comments?
Mayor, are we going to get these lists? Maybe we can respond back to those questions. Yeah. Thanks.
I just want to stop and ask a question. Ryan, any question? Okay, good.
Excellent. We'll run through quickly what we've heard so far. We've mailed out, as you can see, 2,100 postcards to let everyone know to go to the website, to take the survey, 627 survey responses were received. So the response rate was 29%, which is unheard of. That's probably the most survey responses I've ever seen. Typically, we see about a 3% around the lowest, and you're feeling pretty good if you're around 10, 12%. So I think people are interested. They are responding. Next slide, please. So we asked and again, this is just real big picture. We have a lot more data. I just wanted to share a little bit with you before I come back in a few months or in a month or two. The quantity of the parks. Half the respondents rated that the quantity of parks that are recreation are excellent or good. So 67% there. Next slide, please. 70% of the respondents said that parks, recreation, open spaces are more important now than it was 10 years ago. So I think that's when we're talking about looking back at the past, there's a large percentage of the people are saying, hey, it's more important now to get outside and recreate and have those spaces. Next slide. Frequency of use, I think there's been mentioned some tonight. Trails and parks are there at the top, followed by playgrounds, athletic fields, and pavilions, picnic areas. What that tells us is right now, those are all pretty basic park amenity needs. There wasn't anything that's a wild hair, right up at the top of your needs. People want kind of your basic park needs, which is great. Next slide. Frequency of use, as you can see, used twice or more a year. You've got parks, trails, playgrounds, pavilions, and athletic fields, all ranging above 50%. The quality of facilities, you can see again, that stayed the same. I think this is kind of your important category because it's where all your higher numbers are. That over the past 3 years with trails, athletic fields, parks, playgrounds, pavilions, majority of the respondents said that those areas stayed the same. And the good side of that is that more said they improved than declined over the past 3 years. So we feel confident with that. And then we talked about recreation program interest. As you can see, 60% of the respondents said a farmer's market, then biking, fitness classes, festivals, events. So a lot of programmed activities that people would want to participate in. The most needed facilities, you can walk through this list as well, but you can see it's trails, expanded amenities at the lake, more trails at the lake, recreation centers, playground, dog park, and you can go on through down that list. And again, that list will be provided to you. Next slide, please. And then common themes, we like to go through and pick out the common themes. And so the parks and recreation general themes, biking trails, there was a need for a pool in a lot of the comments, recreation center, dog park, sports fields. And again, we did see that theme of keep the small town feel. We've heard that in a lot of our input so far. And then also there was a lot of discussion about the Lake Ray Hubbard and opportunities there. And again, trails, amenities, and improved access.
Question for you. From your experience working with other towns and cities, how does this answers compare to? They come in the same area or same ballpark or just different?
With the types of amenities specifically?
Yeah, parks, yeah. Parks and amenities both, yes.
This is you're pretty even keeled where most people are falling. I think parks, especially now, we've seen with the COVID, the epidemic, parks are you've probably seen it. They're being used more because they're outdoor spaces. So I think that affects it. This survey was out about that time when COVID was hitting. I think what you have is great. From initially, what I think we're initially getting right now is that the town really needs to focus on the opportunity to acquire land. Because as growth continues to come, the acquisition of land is going to be important and then to build out those pieces of property into the future, but to have the land as soon as possible. And I think that's the biggest theme we're seeing. But other than that, all these amenities that people are requesting and the response rates are pretty even keel for this area of the state. And then what's next? We're gonna develop reports with all the input findings. We've got, like as I mentioned, a few more input meetings this month. We're gonna present those findings to you all. And then we'll develop goals and objectives, needs, recommendations, and then we will bring that section of the plan back. You'll have a chance to review it, to look at it, to make sure we're on the right track. And then we will develop the drafts and final reports. And most importantly, we'll focus on implementation. a lot of people think the plan ends at adoption. That's not anything our firm believes in. We believe it, it really never ends, because once you build these things and implement them, you've got to maintain them, you've got to operate them. So that's just one of the things we fully believe in, is the implementation of these plans. And that's really all I have tonight for you. I'm happy to provide these questions. I think any more feedback that can be emailed to us or phone discussions, I'm happy to do with any of you individually.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Shatter.
How does COVID impacted the development of parks and recs? Is there anything that is being added that we need to consider?
There's a few things. I think people are still trying to figure that out, to be honest. A lot of, it's become standard to pick up. The biggest thing we've seen is the standard of, the dog waste stations that pick up. A lot of those are now popping up around. The hand sanitation stations are being built more commercial grade, and they're being put at playgrounds. They're being put at trailheads so that people have access to hand sanitation at those spots. There's also been some changes in irrigation based on having extra pipes available for clean water if it's needed, or for cleaning playgrounds. You could hook up pressure washers to them. But in terms of actual amenities, in terms of for outdoor specifically, I don't think we've seen anything that's popped up as of now. But I know there's a lot of studying. We do a lot of research trying to figure out what is the next big move.
Let me tag onto that one. So earlier I asked the question, compared to other cities you work with, the priorities or the needs of the citizens, are they same or different for Sunnyvale? And you said they are pretty similar. So tagging on to Mr. Allen's question, pre-COVID versus now. I'm hoping that in the next year or so, we'll be over the hump and we'll go back to somewhat of normalcy.
Correct.
In other words, since this is a 10-year master plan, I don't want to just build for 1 year. I just want to build for the next 10 years or even beyond that, right? So how does the expectations, the priorities of citizens change?
I think people, I don't know, because there's still more input to get from Sunnyvale specifically. But I think people want, trails have been number one in most communities around this area that we've seen all the time. And
Is it pre-COVID or post-COVID or both?
Both.
Okay, so no change.
And there's no change. And the reason for that is pretty, trails can be used from infants in strollers with mothers or fathers, skateboarders, rollerbladers, walkers. You can go all the way up to those who may be wheelchair bound or older. Anyone can use a trail for the most part. When you start talking about very specific things like a skate park, you're talking about very small portions of the community. So you see trails and generally parks and benches and things like that falling at the top because it's such a wide range of use for the population.
So let me tag on to what Mr. Egan said. So Mark is right. So there are a lot of people who've been here for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Their expectations are different than the younger group. As far as the trails and playgrounds probably is not, or skate is not a thing for the, those who don't have kids, right? My kids are grown up.
Correct.
But as far as the trails and that type of things, is that pretty common from families with infants versus?
All the way through. Trails are just one of the most, you mentioned connectivity and exercise. They just really are one of the most popular trends in the state. And they have been for probably 20 years. People love them.
Another thing that I'm sure has been brought to you is a central piece of our community is our schools. And so if in what we look at is for parks, it'd be great to be able to supplement what the schools have, have it work together to just make sure that we have a great community. I think trails do that. Being able to allow kids to get to schools by using the trails or not. But in looking at, I think you brought up some ballparks, and again, going back to some youth sports, I think that should be a factor. School, what do they have? Do we want any types of rec leagues that the town runs, those sort of things?
And we will do that. We'll run that analysis. We'll look at what schools have, what HOAs have, and make sure it's a balanced park system. We'll look into partnership opportunities, all of those types of elements to make sure it's a balanced community with recreational amenities. Any other questions, comments for me?
Thing. Have you looked at all the lake properties? And we have a Barnes Bridge, that lake park has been closed for a while. Is that also looked into, or that is, or only what is currently open?
We'll look into everything. Yeah, we'll look at undeveloped properties, even, properties that aren't owned by the town, just to see. We'll need every inch of this community.
As far as timing is concerned, when do you expect this study to be completed and recommendation to come back to council?
We're hoping to finalize this plan midsummer. Just a few months. We slowed down a lot with trying to gather public input during the COVID. Now that we're back out and moving, I've worked a lot with Burton. We're gonna have all of our meetings done before Christmas. And then we have another kickoff meeting with all the results 1st of January. And then once we have all that data, we'll really be able to start plugging away and developing the plan.
Usually you met with HOAs, different HOAs already? Have you met with the different?
We have not been to them, but we've inventoried. We've used a lot of aerials. We've been in the community. We've taken photographs. That was actually probably almost a year ago now. Well, not that far, but a few months back. We've gotten pretty familiar with the town, and I've had a lot of phone calls with Burton, so made a lot of progress, I think, for where we can be right now.
Council, any other comments, questions, and discussion? Susan, anything else? Martin, anything else? Anything else for you?
That's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Thank you, sir, for being here tonight.
Certainly. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Susan, we finished an hour early. Is that? Okay. Yeah, I prefer that. You're good with that?
Yeah, so you'll read us into executive session.
Okay. I will do that. Give me a second. Council, can I have a motion to adjourn into recess into executive session pursuant to Chapter 551, Subchapter D of the Texas Government Code, 551.072, deliberations about real property.
Motion.
Motion made by Mr. Ehrlich.
Second.
Second by Mr. Clark. All in favor of the motion signify.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passed 6-0. Mr. Freeman is absent. No question. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for bringing us together as a body of elected officials as we represent the citizens of this town. We ask that you give us the wisdom, the humility to listen to our people and be guided by you. In all deliberations tonight, we ask that your guidance be with us. With the council members who serve this town, and the police officers and firemen and our staff who serve this town. We ask that you be with them and watch over them. We pray for citizens of this town and everything we do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Please join me standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Please be seated. The time is 7:11. Do I need to call to order again, Susan? I already done that, right? I did. I just did. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm going to skip over the item number 2 to introduction of the new employee. And going on to the announcement pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.0415, announcements can be made. Council, are there any announcements? Staff? Okay, now I'm going to close the announcement. Moving on to the public forum. This is the time members of the audience may come forward and speak to the council on any items other than personal matters, legal matters, or items on the agenda. If you'd like to come forward and speak to the council, you may do so at this time. If you are joining us via Zoom, you may raise your hand. No one is coming forward. Joseph, anyone raising their hands?
No hands raised. As a reminder, press *9 to raise your hand.
Okay, no hands raised, so I'm going to close the public forum. Council, we have 3 items on the consent agenda item. Number 3, consider approval of minutes of the special meeting for December 7th. Number 4, consider and act upon the second reading of ordinance 20-30. And number 5, consider and act upon resolution 20-65, approving a 5th amendment to the promissory note and voluntary assessment of cash contribution in lieu of amenity construction agreement between Sunnyvale Development Ltd. And the town of Sunnyvale. Would anyone like to remove any of the items from the consent agenda? If not, can I have a motion to approve consent agenda item 3, 4, and 5 as presented?
Motion approved as presented.
Motion made by Mr. Clark,
Second.
second by Mr. Eldridge to approve item 3, 4, and 5 as presented. Everyone heard the motion? All in favor signify. All opposed? Motion passed 6-0. Mr. Lapton, thanks for joining us tonight. Moving on to the public hearing portion of the agenda. Hold a public hearing, discuss and consider and act upon the first reading of ordinance 20-31, an ordinance adopting updated land use assumptions, capital improvement plans, equivalency tables, and impact fees for water, wastewater, and roadway facilities, amending various sections of Article 13.1100, impact fees of the Code of Ordinances, amending Section 8.1100, 8.1200 of Appendix A, fee schedule of the Code of Ordinances to adopt new impact fee assessment and collection schedules, repealing sections 3.1300 and 8.1400 of Appendix X, fee schedule of the Code of Ordinances. Have you, Charles?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you're aware, the town has been going through a process to review and update the impact fees charged for new development. The council appointed a Capital Improvement Advisory Committee and hired Friesen Nichols to perform the technical aspects of the study After staff, Freeze and Nichols and the committee concluded their work and the committee made its recommendation to the council, you'll recall that the council held 2 work sessions on the topic in October and November. Based on those discussions with council, staff has prepared an ordinance that does the following. It adopts the land use assumptions, the capital improvement plans, and the equivalency tables necessary to calculate the fees that are all detailed in the report that's attached to the agenda item. It also adopts the water, wastewater, and roadway impact fees per service unit and the collection rates that were discussed with the council during those sessions as well. As a reminder, the water fee per service unit is $6,927. The wastewater fee is $1,279. The roadway fee for residential properties is $1,290. And the roadway fee for commercial properties, because we discussed charging that at half of the rate, is $645. As a reminder, the town is capped at 50% of the total impact fee by state law. So we are charging the 50% collection rate on water, wastewater, and roadway for residential, and then 25% for roadway commercial. This is consistent with what the town's done throughout its history in assessing impact fees. The ordinance also makes the necessary corresponding changes to the town's master fee schedule that are found in Appendix A, and removes 2 outdated and unnecessary tables from that fee schedule that just appear to have never been removed. As part of the approval process, tonight we're also holding a public hearing to receive public input. That's a part that's required by state law. And the public hearing was advertised in accordance with state law so that the public was aware. Staff recommends approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that y'all might have.
Okay. Since it's a public hearing item, I am going to call for public comments. If there's anyone from the members of the audience who would like to come forward and join the council or speak to the council, you may do so. If you are calling in via Zoom, you may raise your hand. No one is coming forward from the chamber. Joseph, anyone raising their hands?
No hands raised.
No hands raised, so I'm going to close the public comments. Council, time for discussions. Mr. Egan?
Mayor, I only have one point. Before this document becomes part of the public record, we get Freeze and Nichols to change the picture because we no longer have a round water tower. We worked hard to get a brand new water tower, and this one doesn't represent Sunnyvale in today's world.
Good point.
We can change the picture.
I was talking to Brenda before the meeting. During our workshop, we talked about adding, Brenda, how do we say, when Mr. Finch talked about adding an asterisk and some sort of clarification that commercial developments may approach town for a different, can you
Correct.
state that?
So what we discussed was the idea of just an advisory note that says that the town would consider incentives toward required impact fee payments for appropriate commercial development.
So that's strictly, the discussion was limited to the commercial development. Carl, do you have a comment, sir?
I was just going to say that I heard that and I took that more as direction to staff. So what we do once the ordinance is adopted, we create kind of a handout that's not part of the ordinance anywhere, but I was going to include that note on that handout that we give to developers. So that thought is captured, just not in the ordinance.
You see just asking for, from the user community perspective, from the people who, do you see a problem in adding to the ordinance, to the language, or would you rather, I just don't want to get that information to get lost eventually, right?
Well, let me say that it's my preference that it not be in the ordinance. And I wasn't aware of the handout. So for the most part, developers don't go read the impact fee ordinance. They come to the staff and say, what are your impact fees? And if there's a handout that says what the impact fees are with a note about, perhaps incentives being available, That's actually more effective than putting it in the ordinance.
Mr. Finch, you're good with that? Okay. Are there any additional questions for staff or discussions on this topic? Okay, if there are none, I call for a motion on item number 6.
Motion to approve item 6 as presented.
Motion made by Mr. Finch to approve item number 6 as presented. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Clark. Are there additional discussions? All in favor signify. All opposed, motion passed 6-0. Mr. Freeman is absent. So Clark, Charles, this is the first reading.
Yes, sir.
So is your plan to include this as a consent agenda item?
Yes.
Again, council will have the opportunity to pull it if you choose to. Otherwise, it will be a consent agenda item during the January 1st.
Eleven,
There'll be one for December? January 11th. Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Finch, you are in charge. I'm out. Okay, moving on to item number 7, discussion and action item. Discuss, consider, and act upon first reading of ordinance 20-32, an ordinance granting a special sign permit to allow for a new pylon sign and a new directional sign with exceptions to the requirements of section 3.06.01 sign regulations of the Unified Development Ordinance, and Lineage Logistics located generally at 367 Long Creek Road, case 1683, that sign Lineage Logistics. Mr. Goff?
Yes, sir. Last month, the council will recall that the town amended the Unified Development Ordinance to create a special sign permit allowing the council to approve signs that do not conform to the typical requirements for signage. Tonight, we're here to consider the first request using that process. Lineage Logistics is located at 367 Long Creek Road and is a warehouse and shipping company with a significant amount of truck traffic. Lineage is attempting to establish a one-way traffic flow through their property, and to do that, they are requesting permission to install several signs. Most of these signs are actually not signs as defined by the UDO, so they don't require permits or regulation. Others that they are proposing require permits, but they do meet the requirements. However, there are 2 that they're requesting exceptions for tonight. The first is for a proposed pylon sign, and if you look at the plans that are attached to the ordinance, it's noted as E03 on the site plan. The applicant is requesting a special sign permit due to their pylon sign not complying with the section of the UDO that states that a pylon sign has to have a certain combined width of the supports. Their sign is intended to have supports and then extend over the drive lanes for the trucks, so kind of direct trucks into which lane they want to go into. And because you're having trucks drive under the sign, the pylon can't be that wide, or the trucks couldn't use the lane. And so they're requesting an exception from that rule for that sign. And then for the proposed directional sign at what used to be one of the entrances is now just an exit only. They want a directional sign that just says that it's an exit only. However, the UDO typically restricts directional signs to a maximum of 4 feet tall and 12 square feet in area. And they're proposing a 6-foot tall sign that measures 32 square feet in area. And that additional size is just to make it visible, particularly to trucks from a distance where they can actually navigate and avoid using that as an entrance. So we feel that both of these sign exceptions have merit and sort of take into account sort of the atypical use of this property and promote the safety of the operations of the trucks. And so we would recommend approval of these special sign permits.
From an aesthetics, is that going to be looking okay in your opinion?
Yes, so the supports of the pylon aesthetics will be masonry, clad in masonry, so they'll match the building. And so yes, we think they'll look nice.
Okay, I'm going to open up for public comments. If anyone from the members of the audience would like to come forward and speak to the council on this item, you may come forward. Or if you're calling in via Zoom, you may join. You may raise your hand, or yeah, you may raise your hand. nobody's coming forward.
We have one person that raised their hand.
Yeah, just one. Yeah, nobody's coming forward from the chamber. Joseph, somebody's raising their hand. Good evening, sir or ma'am. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Okay, I'm unmuting Sean Smith.
Yep. Yes, my name is Sean Smith. I'm with the application, representing the application. So I just wanted to say thank you to staff. They've worked tirelessly with us and helping us come up with this plan that we're proposing before you. And I'm just here to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Anyone else raising their hand? Joseph?
No other hands raised.
Council, are there any questions for Mr. Smith or for staff? Ms. Allen?
Mayor and Sean, I have one question for you. On page 12, probably don't know what page I'm looking at, but on the picture
Of the sign, is that a proportionate picture of what that sign's going to look like? And I'm looking on page 133, Charles, of our handout.
Yeah, so that's page 6 of 15 of the
Page.
plan set.
Oh, I'm sorry. Look at that page. Look at page 8 of 9 of their handout. Looks like that's a picture of the current building with a new sign, but I think that's probably imposed. And then my question is that proportional as to what that's going to look like?
Yes, that's proportional.
Okay, I think that's all.
Are there any additional discussions or questions for staff or the applicant? Okay, if there are no other discussions or questions, can I have a motion with respect to item number 7?
Mayor, I make a motion to approve item number 7 as listed.
Motion made by Mr. Allen.
Second.
Second by Mr. Finch to approve item number 7 as presented. Are there any discussions or additional questions? If not, all in favor signify. All opposed, motion passed 6-0. Mr. Freeman is absent. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you, staff. Moving on to item number 8. Receive an update on the scope and status of the upcoming project to reconstruct US Highway 80 within the town of Sunnyvale and neighboring areas. That be our engineer Jenkins.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. As Susan said, basically I've just presented a very brief presentation for y'all tonight in response to a request for information about where Highway 80 is. Just as a little bit of background, the highway as it currently stands is, as everybody knows, very undersized, the amount of traffic that uses it on a daily basis. And so the Texas Department of Transportation is in the process of getting plans together to improve the highway. The portion within Sunnyvale will be part of a larger project. It's actually going to start at the interchange with Interstate 30 in Mesquite, proceeding easterly through Mesquite, through Sunnyvale, and ending at FM 460 in Forney. As far as the section in Sunnyvale, what it's going to basically consist of, it's going to be replacing the existing main lanes, which is 2 lanes each direction, with the new roadway section, 3 lanes in each direction. In addition, the frontage roads that are currently part of Sunnyvale, they're 2-way. Part of Sunnyvale, they're 1-way in either direction. Those frontage roads are going to be reworked to be 1-way continually throughout the project alignment. And the existing bridge that right now today is just east of where East Fork Road ends is going to be shifted to the west and be more of a direct linear path with East Fork Road to be a little bit more, it's going to flow a little better when it's all done. The first portion of the work in Sunnyvale, according to TxDOT, is going to be working on the frontage roads. They're going to extend the frontage roads further east. Right now, those frontage roads end just a little ways past Sunnyvale's eastern limits. They're going to be extended all the way through to the end of the project at FM 460. That way, when they're working on the main lanes, they'll be able to detour traffic onto those frontage roads, and they'll have a way to get through the alignment. Once all that is done, then the main lanes will be reconstructed. There are going to be some grade changes. I don't have a lot of detailed information about what those grade changes are going to be. The schematics that I provided you as part of the packet is really the most technical information that the town has been provided to date. I do know they're in the process of working on actual construction plans, but they're at extremely very early stage in the process. So as I say, what I've given you is the most recent technical information as far as how that roadway is going to be, how it's going to be configured when it's all done. We have entered into an advanced funding agreement already with TxDOT. Y'all have already reviewed and considered that for the relocation of all reimbursable utilities within the right-of-way. There probably will be additional non-reimbursable utilities that need to be relocated. However, because they have not proceeded very far with their plans, I just don't have any good information from TxDOT about that at this time. We have provided them our locator maps of our utilities, and we're working with them to provide them all the information we can about what the town has in the right-of-way and what we have near the right-of-way. But there's still quite a long way to go before the plans are done. The most recent information we have as far as a timing schedule on it is they expect to let the project for construction in November of 2022. Of course, that's just what we've been told by TxDOT, and that is subject to change, but they've been pretty firm about that date, at least at this point.
Are they done with the design then? Is that?
No, so the design, as I say, is still kind of at a very early stage. I don't really think they've even really achieved a 30% plan set yet, so the design still has a ways to go. As I say, I mean, those schematics kind of show real rough how they're going to do it, but they don't have anything addressed about utility relocations or traffic control or those types of items as of yet. So all that having been said, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. And if there's something I can't answer right away, I'll certainly be happy to reach out to TxDOT and try to report back to y'all at a later time.
Okay. Let me open up for public comments. If anyone from the members of the audience would like to come forward and speak to the council or ask questions about this, you may do so. If you are joining us via Zoom, you may raise your hand. No one is coming forward. Joseph, anyone raising their hands?
No hands.
No hands raised. We're going to close the public comments. Well, Lila, I have a couple of questions for you, sir. So you talked about as the initial phase, they want to get rid of the two-way side road and extend one directional side all the way to the end of the project.
Yes, so that's correct.
So right now, if you're coming down from the cemetery, right, the New Hope, right, cemetery, if you go, the only way to come back to either Rebecca or to Collins, you have to go all the way down, take that, I think it's called East Fork Bridge over the lane, right, over the freeway, then take a left to go to the town, or take a right, that's the two-way lane, go to Rebecca. So when they remove the two-way, can people get to Rebecca from that side, or they have?
Well, I would.
After they move the bridge to the east or to the, I thought he said.
Well, one thing I can share with you at this time, and it shows in those schematics, right now, Lawson Road, you know, if you're coming up from the south, it currently ends right there at 80. There is going to be a bridge. So Lawson Road is going to actually go over the roadway. So theoretically, if one was on that southern side of 80 going from the New Hope Cemetery, you would be able to go down to Lawson Road and use Lawson Road as a conduit to get across the highway, and then you could head back west into Sunnyvale.
Okay.
The only thing I don't know at this time is exactly the timing on how all these different improvements are going to be done. So as I say, as TxDOT proceeds with the plans, that is something that's going to be worked into their traffic control layout. Again, unfortunately, without more detailed plan sets, I just don't have enough information to give you a specific schedule. But that roadway will be constructed as part of the project.
Yeah, because to access the eastern side of Sunnyvale, Rebecca Road, and all of them, right now the only way is to take that two-lane north service road, right?
Yes, so that's quite correct, and it's certainly a concern. And as I say, my presumption is that when we get some detailed plans, it'll talk a little bit more about the sequence of how that's going to happen.
And a couple of things we talked to the strategic plan. We talked about a contour under the freeway. That is you staff still keeps that in mind, right?
That's correct. We have brought that up to TxDOT in the past. As I say, we are going to be working with them on utility relocations, and I have requested, and we are going to continue to work with them to get a conduit for a future sanitary, possible future water crossing, get all that in when the main lanes are reconstructed.
And the final one is, again, that's really, 80 East is really one of our future business development opportunities, right? So we talked about having gas line, high-speed internet, electricity, sewer, all of them on both sides. I think is that something which staff discussing with the TxDOT?
We certainly are working with them on trying to get as much provision when they redo this roadway as we can. It's a golden opportunity. It's
It
probably
is,
the best
it
chance
is.
we'll have to
Yeah.
get these things in.
Thanks, sir. Councilor, are there any question for Mr. Allen?
Lyle, just one question. Is that going to be the frontage road when it's completed? Is that going to be one way? Or are they still going to have 2-lane roads on the service roads, on the frontage roads?
Well, there'll be 2 lanes, but it'll be one direction. Basically, on the south side of 80, it'll be one way headed east. On the north side of 80, it'll be one way headed west, which is really, it's going to be a much safer layout than what's out there now. Some of those interchanges at East Fork and at Lawson Road, they're a little scary the way they're configured right now, and it's going to be a much safer roadway for all concerned.
Thank you, and I agree with you as well.
Okay. Mr. Clark?
Lyle, in looking at this diagram, these schematics that you've provided, it looks like they're changing some of the off-ramp, on-ramp, from the frontage road to 80. Is that accurate?
Yes, so that's correct. They're shifting some of those around to provide for a safer transition from the highway to the frontage roads, and then vice versa.
Okay. It also looks like they're adding a U-turn on Beltline Road that would allow westbound traffic to circle around to the east.
Yes, sir. It's going to be kind of similar to what currently is in place here at Collins and Highway 80. I mean, right now, you just have to go through the rest of the traffic and make 2 left turns to get turned around. But yeah, there'll be a dedicated U-turn lane.
Right.
Okay. And I do have schematics for the entire alignment. If anybody needs to look at them to look at a portion that's maybe not directly in the town, I can certainly provide those.
Okay. And also, how much leeway do we have with, I guess, can these change, the on ramps, off ramps, what they've drafted out here in the schematics? Are those pretty well finalized, or is this up for negotiation still?
Well, I would say there is certainly a possibility to change things. I think if we were to try to get them to change something, we would have to come up with a good explanation and support for why we would want that change. But I mean, it's not carved in stone at this point. I mean, as I say, they haven't even achieved 30% design. TxDOT does allow towns and cities along the route an opportunity to review and comment. And so, yeah, I mean, there could be some room for changing that. It's just we're going to have to be able to back up the reason for the request.
Right. Mr. Clark, you have a specific request you want to discuss the line later or now, or?
No, I don't want it to change. I like how it is.
You like it?
I like it.
Okay.
But I don't want to get too excited in case it's easy to change.
Certainly. And if something does change above and beyond what's on these schematics, I'll be more than happy to share that information with y'all in order to give y'all a chance to make any comments.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Again, at some frequency between Susan and you decide what's the right frequency. Just like the police department used to update us, just give us incremental updates of us as the project matures. Please.
Sure. We'll certainly, Susan and I will continue to work together on that.
Council, are there any additional questions from anyone? Okay. Lyle, appreciate you, sir. Thanks for staying late to give us this update.
You're quite welcome.
Moving on to item number 9, discuss, consider, and act upon resolution 20-64, a resolution of the town council authorizing the town manager to execute an interlocal agreement with the Regional Organized Crime Information Center. Chief Hawks, how are you, sir? Good evening.
Good evening. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. The ROCIC, this is a basic MOU with them. They're a regional database of known offenders that it's shared throughout law enforcement organizations. They also offer training. This is all for our investigative division. They also offer training, and they also offer high dollar equipment that a lot of small agencies can't afford. They'll loan those to us for a specific time. In the past, I've used it for surveillance equipment, and they'll loan it to us for 90 days or really as long as we need it. And it costs a few $100s a year. It's a valuable tool for investigations. And this is just to enter into that agreement.
Thank you, Chief. We'll open up for public comments. If anyone from the members of the audience would like to speak to the council on item number 9, you may come forward. If you are joining us via Zoom, you may raise your hand. No one is coming forward from the audience. Joseph, anyone raising their hands?
No hands.
No hands raised. We're going to close the public comments. Council, are there any questions or discussions on item number 9? Okay, if not, can I have a motion with respect to 9?
Approve.
Motion made by Mr. Eldridge to approve item number 9.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Clark. Everyone heard the motion? Are there any discussions? If there are none, all in favor signify. All opposed, motion passed 6-0. Mr. Freeman is absent. Council, we are coming to the very last item. That's item number 10. That's the mayor and council requests for future staff updates and agenda items.
Mayor, I don't have a request. However, I do want to thank Susan, the staff, for the holiday drive-through lights. It was really nice. You guys did an outstanding job. Opened up the possibility for some things that maybe we didn't know before. So thank you all very, very much for that event. It was outstanding. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Clark.
I agree. I was actually going to try to say that before Larry said it. So thank you very much for all the staff. You guys did an amazing job. So thank you for all the hard work out there.
So there was an announcement action item right from the beginning. Just say.
In the beginning, I was trying to get the coffee machine.
Just say. All right.
Trying to get the coffee machine to work. So sorry.
Okay, 2 engineers, yeah, right there. All right, okay, if there are none, okay, now I call for a motion to adjourn.
Mayor.
Sorry, Mr. Egan, my apologies, sir.
I'd like to see if we could schedule a workshop with the town manager and the chief, police chief, so that I'm already pretty low level, it's been defined. But I'd like to have a better idea of, now that we've got a couple of months under our belt, I'd like to have a better idea of what council's expectations are, not directives, not, hey, we want to, but I need to better understand why we're spending the money that we're spending when we now have some control of being able to say, you know, we're having loud street issues. We're having speeding issues. We're having these various different issues that we may not could have pressed the sheriff's department to deal with, but now we have an opportunity. To me, it's our responsibility as the leaders of the town to, and we're hearing, maybe we're hearing a little bit more than they are, but to have discussions, open discussions with the chief and the town manager about these are the things that we're hearing, and these are the things that we are seeing, and there may be ways to legally deal with it, or there may not be. Maybe there's law that says, you can't go there. And I don't know that. I don't study law. I think it would be good for, I don't know, hour and a half, 2 hours. I know it's a hassle to get us all together to do it, but I think there's a learning process, at least for me. I'm not real smart, but at least for me, there's a learning process that's involved now that we're making the expenditures we're expending.
Mr. Clark, Mr. Egan, sorry. Say that in summary. So basically, what are the additional expectations or concerns you are hearing from citizens? Is that what you said? Pretty much. Okay. Susan, are you familiar with those concerns? Okay. let me ask you, so we can do, would it be worthwhile, may I ask you to send an email to Susan, maybe copy me on some other concerns? And I'm going to offer the same thing to all the council members, because it's important that what we hear, we communicate with staff and Susan and Chief. So, Mr. Egan, if you could do me that favor of write an email. I'm going to ask all the council members the same thing. If you hear something, if you are hearing, or if you have other expectations, let's just document that. Once we have it, then perhaps I'm going to ask you, Susan, at that time, get with me on either if you can, something can be answered right then and there, that's fine. But if you need a council discussion, let's plan a workshop.
Yeah.
Would that work for Mr. Egan?
So that would be great. I did provide their first monthly reports. I mean, we've only gotten like a month and a half under our belt. So, I mean, we're still ramping up. So, I mean, I would appreciate it as, you know, the chief does report to me to give me an opportunity to ask any questions that you all might have. So that would be very helpful, sir. Thank you.
Again, Susan, I'm going to ask you to contact Mr. Freeman, ask him the same thing, and I will also try to remember to call him that way, since he's not here, to ask him to provide the information. Thanks. Did I miss anyone else? Anyone else have any additional items for agenda? Okay. If there are none, I call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion made by Mr. Eldridge to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Mr. Clark. Everyone heard the motion? All in favor signify. All opposed, motion passed 6-0. Time is 7:46. Meeting is adjourned. Just want to thank our officers and our staff for being here tonight and all the support council. Thank you very much. Good night.